Rio is a helpless orphan who is sent to the slums after his mother is murdered. However, when a spirit goddess with mommy milkers gives him magic skills, he uses them to become overpowered so he can clap his enemies for revenge. It all starts with a boy named Haruto heading to university on a bus before it loses control and gets yeeted by the train. Meanwhile, in another world, a fragile boy named Rio wakes up in the slums and suddenly starts experiencing memories that are not his. He is confused to the point that he starts calling himself Haruto. But as he struggles with an identity crisis, some men enter the house. They get seated and begin feasting, and one of them tells Rio to wash himself because he smells like an average Annie and Dear viewer. Brother, as Rio steps outside, he is so hungry that he begins eating berries. Memories of Haruto flood his mind once again, but he reminds himself that he is Rio and he's living in these slums so he can avenge his mother. After remembering how she died, Rio wipes his tears and dresses up again. Just then, some women in white robes show up, and the elder one, Vanessa, sternly asks him if he has seen a girl with purple hair. When Rio hesitates to answer, the girl named Celia figures he might be intimidated and decides to talk to him politely. Rio calmly tells her he hasn't seen her. So when Celia suggests they look through the slums, Rio tells her not to. He explains that their group will stick out like a Discord mod at a gym. So Vanessa suggests they return after dressing up like common folks. The other girls, Christina and Rowana, protest, but Vanessa insists they head back. Before leaving, she asks Celia to check the vicinity for any magical presence, prompting her to cast a spell. This causes Rio's body to glow, and Celia realizes that he is overflowing with magic, which means he has the potential to become a mage. Since they don't detect any other presence, they decide to ski, but not before handing him payment for giving them information. After Rio returns home, a masked person suddenly stabs him in the chest, but the coin pouch blocks the impact of the knife. Shocked, Rio looks around to find everyone else stabbed to death, and the masked man slowly starts approaching him with his knife. Right before he swings at him, Rio sees the spirit of a pretty lady who appears for a few seconds and teaches him how to use his magic. After she disappears, Rio starts fighting back against the masked man. Using magic combined with the fighting style he inherited from Haruto's memories, the masked man uses magic to enhance his abilities, but Rio farms him until he's knocked out. Just then he notices someone tied up in a bag and opens it to find a purple-haired girl, who begs him to take her to the castle before passing out from the gruesome scene. Rio guesses she must be the princess those other girls are looking for, so he decides to carry her to the castle. On his way, he runs into the girls from earlier, but Christina grabs him by the shirt, accusing him of being a criminal. This causes Vanessa to draw her sword, and she orders Rio to accompany her to the castle or get gay mended here. After Rio agrees, royal guards swarm his house and arrest the man who kidnapped the girl. Just then, a man in the crowd pops a pill, and the kidnapper mysteriously dies on the spot. Meanwhile, Rio was put under a torturous investigation where Charles, the vice captain of the royal guards, questions him when Rio denies any involvement in the kidnapping. Charles starts treating him like a 90s housewife. Meanwhile, the kidnapped girl, Princess Flora, finally regains consciousness and is relieved to find herself back in her room. She then learns from Vanessa that the boy who saved her is currently being investigated. She asks her to bring Rio. So Vanessa and Celia show up and are horrified to see that he got folded like a lawn chair. At first, Charles is proud of his work, but when he learns Rio saved Flora's life, he starts sweating and tells his men to release him. After Celia heals him, Rio wakes up in a comfy bed and is surprised to see that all his wounds are gone. Celia apologizes for what he was put through, and Rio suddenly realizes she's the same girl he talked to outside his house. She also reveals that he'll have an audience with the king, who will reward him for saving his daughter by enrolling him in the Magic Academy. After taking Rio to the king, Celia takes him to the Magic Academy and asks him to come to her lab after school so she can teach him some basics. Before taking him to class, she tells him that most of the students here are crypto princesses and they might not like him much. As soon as he enters the class, students start eyeing him like he's a vegetarian at a beat party. And once he introduces himself, they already start making fun of him. As he gets seated, Celia begins the lecture and asks the students to note down the problems, though she tells Rio to take it easy. After the classes end, Rio heads to Celia's lab. But when he knocks on the door, Celia rudely opens the door and tells him to read the Do Not Disturb sign. However, once she realizes it's Rio, she welcomes him in and he sees that her lab looks like a skipped bomb zone. Stepping inside, he comments that she looks pretty young even though she is a professor. And Celia reveals she's actually the same age as him, much to his shock. After pleasantries, she assigns him math problems which Rio is able to solve with ease. Impressed by his skills, she reveals that his intellect is on par with Christina, the same freak who smacked him in the face earlier. What Celia does not know is that Rio's memories have been merged with Haruto, who was a university student in his life. Celia asks where he learned to do maths and he lies that his mother was the one who taught him. While serving tea, she asks Rio if he had any issues on his first day, but he says it went mostly well. He then asks her to recommend some books so he can practice the new alphabet of this world. During combat training, the professor notices Rio is quite good and asks him to strike him as hard as possible. As Rio locks in, Haruto's memories of practicing martial arts take over and he attacks the professor with all his strength. His sword skills are so cracked that the whole class pauses like it's a Fortnite live event, and after he catches the professor by surprise, he earns the man's respect. The old man says he has the potential to become a knight. But when Rio says he has no interest, the whole class is shocked. Later, as he studies for exams in the library, Celia asks him to take it easy since he's only just joined. On the day of the exam, while others struggle with the questions, Rio writes like a machine. Hey yo, what the? After he exits the room, he sees the students going about their day, which reminds him of the time a girl named Maharu betrayed Haruto. He recalls his childhood friend Maharu, whom he had promised to marry, but when they reached university, she got herself another man, which broke his heart. As the memories flood in, Rio returns to his dorm, saddened by the tragic love story between Miharu and Haruto. However, he gets upset because none of it should concern him because he is Rio. When the test results come out, Rio scores the same as Christina, the top student in their class, much to everyone's shock. Christina's Tier 3 simp starts accusing him of cheating, but both Rowana and Christina scold him for throwing baseless accusations. Just then, Celia herself shows up and tells everyone that Rio worked super hard, but even then, Alance refuses to accept it. Later in her lab, she congratulates Rio for scoring the top spot, but she's worried the students will start Reddit hate threads against him. Rio asks her if she faced the same treatment when she was a student, and Silly admits that the higher nobles would cause her troubles here and there. She says she had friends who helped her and Rio says he'll be fine too because he has her. Ro's Riz game is so strong and makes Celia blush, but she's flattered to learn that he sees her as a friend rather than a professor. After a little bit of teasing, Rio tells her that he will come to her if he ever needs a friend, which makes her happy. She says he can cry on her jugs if need be, and Rio jokes that there isn't much going on there. 5 years later, during combat training, the professor reveals that an exhibition tournament is being held and he needs the top 3 students as cures. He chooses Alon, Stewart, and Rio. And even though Rio's selection sparks controversy, the professor stands his ground. At the lab, Silly reveals that he can get scouted by the knights per graduation if he does well, but he sternly says he is not interested. Celia then notices that he's grown taller than her, but he jokes that she's still a shoddy. She then asks him what he plans to do after graduation, and Rio says he's thinking of touching some grass. Realizing he might leave the country, Celia offers him a job at the lab, reminding him that he's really good at keeping this place clean. Rio says she'll get married soon and it won't be a good look to have a commoner in her lab. Celia says she doesn't plan to marry anytime soon, but Rio calmly says many will be interested because she's a charming woman, which makes her blush. She then asks where he will go, and he says he'll go to his parents' homeland, Yagumo. He recalls his mother telling him about it and promising to take him there when he grows up. And Celia can see the pain he hides behind his smile now that she's head. A few weeks later, the tournament begins, and a knight named Alfred serves as a referee. As Rio is called to the arena, he runs into Valence on the way, who tells him not to choke or their whole class will get ratioed. As he steps into the area, he is shocked to see that his opponent is Charles, the same guy who tortured him 5 years ago. The match begins. And despite going against the seasoned warrior, Rio holds his ground, which causes Charles to attack him recklessly. However, Rio uses this against him and disarms him, prompting Alfred to declare him the winner. Charles starts making excuses, but Alfred tells him to stop being a wussy and accept defeat like a true man. That night, Charles gets drunk with his buddy Race, telling him that Rio is the same kid who was accused of kidnapping the princess 5 years ago. Unbeknownst to him, Race is the same mysterious guy who gaminded the actual kidnapper from the crowd. The next day, Celia eagerly waits for Rio so she can congratulate him in person. She then sees him going to the back where a girl hands him a love letter, which makes Celia feel hurt. That night, she goes over the students' postgraduate plans, surprised to see that Rio didn't write any. The next day during class, Celia asks the students to do something as basic as controlling their magical power, and Alonze believes she's doing this, especially for Rio since he's a commoner. She handles it calmly, telling Alonze and his friend Stuart to demonstrate their skills. Once they do, she uses magic to close the curtains and outperforms them with ease. After class, Stuart praises Celia for her show earlier and then accuses Rio of being a diddler in front of her to make him look bad. However, Celia tells him not to throw accusations without any proof, and Rio calmly walks out without saying anything, which makes Flora sad. Christina tells her to stay out of his business, but Flora still feels bad because she hasn't even thanked him for saving her. Later, the class gathers for an outdoor practice, and Ra tells Flora not to be worried because all the stronger monsters have been called already. The students are then told that they have to pass through the mountains using the shortest route possible, avoiding as many monsters as they can. Rona then argues that they might not have enough time, but Stuart and Alon's use their connections with the military to have them mark out the safest path throughout the area. As the operation begins, Stuart tasks Rio with carrying everyone's luggage and Rio abides without causing a scene. Flora gently asks him if he would like a hand, but he calmly tells her not to worry about it. She then turns to Christina and tells her that this is blatant racism against Rio. But before they can do anything about it, a horde of goblins shows up out of nowhere. Alance, being the commander, tells the boys to stay calm and instructs them on how to approach this, which allows them to overcome the obstacle with ease. Just then he sees Rio looking in the opposite direction, unaware that Rio has detected another presence behind them. As Race watches from the shadows, he realizes Rio is far more capable than he imagined. As they continue, Alone confidently leads them out of the woods, but they come across a cliff that wasn't marked on the map. Christina asks him what he's planning to do now, but before they can answer, the group is attacked by orcs. When the orcs hurl spears at them, Stuart catches one in the leg and stumbles into Flora, knocking her off the cliff. Rio notices this and jumps after her, using magic to hurl her back up while he falls down into the forest. Before the others can check up on him, the orcs pace up their attacks, so they get into formation to defend themselves. With the help of Christina and the others, the squad manages to clear out the orcs, and Rio, who is down in the forest, hears their cheers from up top. Despite landing like a veteran Super Saiyan, Rio does not understand his own magical powers and worries others will be suspicious of him if he comes out unscathed. Meanwhile, the students begin discussing how Flora was yeeted off the cliff, and Stuart, not wanting to take responsibility, hurls all the blame towards Rio. Lance adds that he must have jumped down because he didn't want to live with the crime of almost game-ending the princess, but Flora tried to argue that nothing of the sort happened. In the end, they decide to let it go and move on. But Flora doesn't want to leave Rio behind. She vows to help him even if it means getting left behind. But Christina and Rowena try to knock some sense into her. Just then a beefy minotaur shows up and not even Christina's thunderball can do any damage to it. Alon suggests using Icelands, but when even that fails, he tells the squad to ski-daddle out of there. Christina and Rona leave because they assume Flora has already escaped, unaware that she went back into the forest to heal those who were hurt. Just then, she hears the Minotaur approaching her and braces herself for a pounding, but Rio suddenly appears and slices off the Minotaur's hand. Flora quickly drags the injured student away and Rio deflects Minotaur's attack like he is a Sakaro veteran. Eventually, he finds an opening and takes the monster down. But when the others show up, he decides to just run away before anyone sees him. Meanwhile, Race notices his ability to use spirit arts and realizes Rio is from the Yaguma region. At the academy, Celia is about to enter the principal's office when she overhears someone talking about Rio. He says Rio has gone missing, and even though Flora advocates for him, they can't let the blame fall on Stuart because it'll taint his family name. Thus, he decides to paint Rio as the culprit and asks Duke Huguenot to attend to the matter. That night, Rio sneaks into Celia's lab and she immediately embraces him, explaining she was worried sick. Later, she tells him he's been accused of a false charge, but Rio calmly accepts it because he knows only the people in power decide what's right or wrong. He then thanks Celia for everything she did for him over the last few years, and that's why he came here to say one last goodbye. He promises to write her letters using his alias, and when she asks what it is, he reveals it'll be Haruto. She then asks if she'll ever see him again, and Rio promises they will meet in the future. After a warm hug, she sends him off with a smile. But as soon as he leaves, Celia breaks down into tears. She recalls all the good times they've spent together, from meeting him for the first time to becoming friends with him. After Rio leaves, Huguenot visits the cells and asks one of his assassin girls, Latifa, to find and game-end Rio using the scent on his uniform. If you loved this anime story and want to know what happens next, drop a comment below and I'll make part 2 just for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.